Michael Jordan watches a school replace a basketball court with a parking lot. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. The bulldozer arrived on a Monday. Not with flashing lights or sirens, just a low rumble rolling down the cracked street beside Booker T. Washington High. Kids didn't look up. They kept dribbling, shouting, running drills. The old court, faded paint, crooked rims, weeds curling through cracks, was still breathing. But the rumble said it wouldn't last. Michael Jordan stood across the street, unnoticed at first. A black hoodie, hands in his pockets. Not even the parents on the sidewalk realized it was him. He didn't want to be recognized yet. He wanted to see the place for what it was, not what it used to be. He watched a kid, maybe 12, maybe smaller, miss 3 free throws, then bury the fourth like it was a buzzer beater in Game 7. His friends swarmed him like it was. That kid's grin? It hit something deep in Jordan's gut. Something he hadn't felt since before he could dunk. This wasn't just a basketball court. It was one of the last ones left in this part of the South Side. He knew because he used to sneak out and play here. Before UNC. Before the Bulls. Before Air Jordan. Before the shoes, the cameras, the rings. Now, they wanted to tear it down. Pave it. Turn it into extra parking spots for the faculty. Jordan knew the game. It always started like this. First the nets disappear, then the rims get rusted, then the court gets fenced, then someone slaps a sign up that says Future Development Site. But this time, something in him wouldn't let it go. Later that evening, MJ sat inside the school gym with the principal, Mr. Hayes, a sharp-dressed man with tired eyes and a clipboard full of logistics. Hayes wasn't the villain. He was a numbers guy. He spoke in needs and liabilities. He pointed to projections, budgets, enrollment curves. We can't keep losing teachers because they don't have parking, Hayes said. We're trying to offer kids a future inside the classroom. And what do you think this court gave them? MJ asked, not angry, not loud, just there. Hayes hesitated. A place to shoot around. That's all it is now. MJ didn't argue. He'd been in too many rooms like this, where dreams were reduced to lines on a spreadsheet. He left quietly. But he didn't leave for good. He came back the next morning with a coffee in one hand and a notebook in the other. Sat down on a bench near the court and started sketching something. Not X's and O's. Bigger than that. By the third day, someone recognized him. A janitor named Roy, who'd worked at the school for 32 years, walked up with a mop in one hand and tears in his eyes. I remember you, Roy said. You had those busted sneakers and no left hand. MJ laughed. Still don't. They talked for half an hour. Roy told him about the fights he'd broken up on this court, the friendships that had started here, the kids who'd gone on to college, and the ones who hadn't. He pointed to the spot where a candlelight vigil had been held for a student shot just 3 blocks over. It's not just asphalt, Roy said. It's where we remind them they're still alive. By Friday, the buzz had spread. Local news vans showed up. Not because of the court, but because word got out, Michael Jordan was here. Kids started staying after school longer. Some skipped class to shoot jumpers. MJ didn't mind. He watched. Talked. Listened. The school board called an emergency meeting. Public comment section opened. The auditorium filled. Teachers. Parents. Students. Activists. And MJ, sitting dead center in the front row. He didn't speak right away. The proposal to remove the court was read aloud, flatly. Administrative language. Clinical. No soul. Then, a senior named Davion stood. Wore a wrinkled Bulls jersey with Jordan's number. His voice cracked. I don't know what's supposed to matter more than that court, he said. My mom works 3 jobs. My pops left before I could talk. That court's the only place I feel like somebody. The room went quiet. MJ stood. "I won 6 rings," he began. "Three-peat. Twice. MVP. Defensive Player of the Year. Y'all know the rest." He paused. "But what made me was a court just like that one. Probably worse. I wasn't born with it. I earned it, on concrete." He looked around the room. "You take that away from these kids, you don't just take a game. You take away the idea that they could be more. You take away their fire. You pave that court, you pave over their shot." That night, the story went viral. MJ in a school gym, defending a broken-down court with more passion than he'd shown in any boardroom or press conference in years. Social media lit up. Celebrities reposted it. Former teammates called him. So did Charles Barkley, who laughed, "Damn, Mike, you finally getting soft in your old age." But MJ wasn't trying to be soft. He was trying to be real. The next morning, he met with Roy again. "What if we fix it?" MJ asked. "Not just stop the demolition. What if we build it into something better?" Roy squinted. "You mean, like, fix the hoops?" "I mean everything." MJ pulled out the notebook. Inside, sketches. A refurbished court. Bleachers. Lights. Community events. A mentorship program. Former players visiting to talk, train, inspire. A place that wasn't just for ball, but for belief. Roy smiled. "You serious about this?" MJ nodded. "More than I've been about anything in years." Outside, the kids were still playing. Still shooting on crooked rims. Still talking smack. Still dreaming. And for the first time in a long time, so was Michael Jordan. He wasn't there to make a statement. He was there to make a stand. Jordan woke up at 6:12 a.m. sharp. Same as he had for years, even in retirement. Old habits didn't die, they just got quieter. He sat in the quiet of a downtown Chicago condo, flipping channels, waiting for the coffee to kick in. Local news was already covering the school board vote. Footage from the auditorium replayed his speech. He didn't care about the coverage. He cared about the decision, which was still pending. The vote had been delayed. Community input, they said. The footage cut to the court. Kids playing at sunrise. That got him. He picked up an old picture off the shelf. Him and his older brother Larry, maybe 13 and 15. Both skinny, both serious, both holding basketballs. That court behind them looked just like Booker T.'s. Back then, it wasn't about the NBA. It wasn't even about varsity. It was about beating Larry. That was the first war. In 1978, Jordan was 15, barely making noise on his high school JV squad. Larry was the athlete. Michael was the hothead. Couldn't take a loss. Slammed balls. Yelled at refs. Got benched for it, more than once. One summer, their dad poured a fresh slab of concrete behind the house. Said if they wanted to argue about ball so much, they could do it on their own court. That court saw blood, fights, and the beginning of something serious. MJ remembered losing 21-17. Larry blocking him at game point, walking off like it was nothing. That loss burned hotter than any in his career. Back in the present, he tossed on sweats and a cap. Drove back to the school. He didn't call ahead. Didn't need cameras. He just walked through the same gate again and watched. Davion was there. Same kid who spoke at the meeting. MJ waved him over. "Yo," Davion said, trying not to act surprised. "You just show up like this?" "I do now," MJ said. "You hoop?" "I try. Ain't nobody around here gonna the league, though." "You don't have to think league," MJ said. "You just have to think next game. That's where it starts." Davion looked down at his shoes. They were Jordan 11s. Beat up. Laces frayed. Those look familiar, MJ said, smiling. I found them in a thrift store, Davion muttered. Didn't even know they were yours when I bought them. Doesn't matter. You wear them better than most. Davion lit up for half a second, then tried to play it cool. Can I show you something? He asked. He led MJ into the school. Down a hallway to a locked door. Pulled a key out of his backpack, borrowed from a janitor who owed him a favor, and opened it. Inside, an old storage room. Dark, dusty, barely big enough to stretch out in. But on the walls, taped pages from Slam magazine. Cutouts of Jordan, Pippen, Iverson, Kobe. A flickering lamp. A milk crate filled with old VHS tapes. He hit play on a tiny TV. It was The Shot. 1989, Jordan over Elo. That frozen second. The fist pump. The madness. I watch this every night, Davion said. My mom says it's like church. MJ didn't know what to say at first. He sat down in a chair missing one leg. Watched the clip with him. They didn't talk for a while. You ever think about what it meant? MJ asked. What? That shot. I mean, you won. Yeah, MJ said. But not just that. That was the first time I really believed I was him. Not the guy they thought I could be. Not the draft pick. Me. I wasn't chasing approval anymore. I was chasing what I already knew was mine. Davion nodded slowly. You saying I gotta find my shot? MJ didn't answer. He just looked at him. You ever mess up? Davion asked suddenly. Like, badly? Jordan laughed. You kidding? I've missed more game winners than I've made. Been cussed out by coaches. Quit the game. Twice. You don't get here without failing first. You just don't stay down. They sat in silence. The tape rewound. Later that day, MJ met with Roy again by the court. Told him about Davion. About the room. The tape. The question. Roy nodded. They don't have much else to hold on to. You're not just a player to them, Mike. You're proof. MJ walked the court's perimeter. Took notes. Jotted ideas. Lighting. Seating. Sound. Cameras. Maybe even a digital scoreboard. Not for the show. For the pride. Then he made a call. First was Pippen. Then Barkley. Then Rodman. What's up? Pip asked. You trying to run it back? I'm trying to build something, MJ said. Something real. They agreed to show up. No press. Just them in the court. Maybe a few drills. Maybe a game or two. Let the kids see what greatness used to look like and what it could still become. News came later that week. The school board delayed the vote again. Rumors swirled that the city was involved now. Politicians were watching. Some thought MJ was trying to build a brand. Others thought he was trying to build a monument to himself. But the truth was simpler. He was trying to give something back to the version of himself that still lived in kids like Davion. The kid who stayed up watching tapes. The one who needed to believe that a court, a ball, and a dream could still mean something. That night, MJ returned to that storage room alone. Left something behind. A sharpened note scrawled on the back of the Slam cover with his picture on it. Fail loud. Play harder. You got next. MJ. Then he walked out. No cameras. No press. Just the sound of a ball hitting the blacktop in the distance. Saturday morning, the court was full. No bulldozers. No school staff. Just sneakers squeaking, trash talk flying, and heat rising off the blacktop like old times. Michael sat on a low fold-out chair at the edge of the court, hat pulled low. Not hiding, just observing. Word had gotten out. No announcements, no flyers. Just the street doing what it always did, passed the message. They were running 5-on-5. Teenagers, college hopefuls, ex-semi-pros, a couple who might have had a shot in the G League if life hadn't thrown a wrench. The games were raw. Fast. Loud. Chicago style. One kid in a Derrick Rose jersey crossed his man up so bad the court erupted. Another, tall and rail-thin, hit 3 straight jumpers with a deadpan face that reminded MJ of a young T-Mac. The energy had changed. The threat of losing the court had brought people out. Parents leaned on the fence. Grandmothers cheered from folding chairs under umbrellas. This was more than a game again. MJ glanced at Roy, who stood nearby with a cooler full of bottled water. "How many of these guys you know?" "Most," Roy said. "That one's Jalen. His brother used to run this court 10 years ago. Got caught up." "That tall one?" "Malik. He don't say much, but he don't miss either. Used to be shy. Now he talks back. That's growth." A man in his 50s strolled up wearing a beat-up Kangol hat and a faded Loyola sweatshirt. "Mike," he said. Jordan looked up. "Dante? You still recognize me?" "Not with that gut," MJ smirked. Dante Wicker had been a streetball legend in the 80s. He never made it to the league, but his name rang out in every park on the South Side. MJ used to study him like film. Fastest first step he'd ever seen. Stories said he once dropped 40 on a Chicago State recruit wearing church shoes. "Thought I'd come see the court one last time before they turn it into a lunch break zone," Dante said. "They're not touching it," MJ said. Dante raised a brow. "You sure about that?" "Working on it." Dante looked out at the game. "You know what this court used to be called?" "No." "The Battleground." MJ looked up. Dante nodded. "That's what we called it in the 80s. This court, Washington Park, and another one by Morgan. We used to run tournaments every summer. You won all 3, you were king for the year. No scouts, no clout, just pride. You lost, you didn't show your face for a month." MJ remembered now. Not the name, but the feeling. That pressure. That thrill. The chaos and clarity that came with streetball, no refs, no rules, no mercy. "You ever win it?" MJ asked. "I came close. Twice. But there was always someone hungrier." They stood in silence for a bit, watching the current generation tear each other apart over possession and pride. "You really trying to rebuild this place?" Dante asked. "More than rebuild," MJ said. "I want to make it something solid. Something lasting. Not just nets and paint." Dante crossed his arms. "Then you're gonna need more than speeches. You're gonna need history. Culture. People who lived this, bled on it. You bring in the suits, they'll pave it anyway. You bring in the battleground? They'll fight for it." MJ nodded slowly. Later that day, he met with a small group inside the gym, just a folding table, a few chairs, and a whiteboard. Roy. Davion. 2 assistant coaches from the school. Dante. A local youth worker named Teresa who ran after-school programs from her garage. MJ stood at the front. Not lecturing. Just sharing. "I've got people who want to help. Some sponsors. Couple names you'd recognize. But I don't want to come in and drop a check. That's not what this is." He pointed to the whiteboard. It read, "The court. The kids. The city. This is the order. This court isn't just for games. It's a platform. A launch pad. You know how many kids I've met who had the game but not the guidance?" He looked at Teresa. "You said you've been running mentorship programs?" "For 8 years," she said. "Basketball, tutoring, job prep. Out of my garage. We get results, but we've outgrown it. I want to fold you into this." She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, we use the court for more than basketball. We host skills camps, workshops, local events. Not some fancy foundation gala. A real space that belongs to the kids. One of the coaches, a guy named Ruben, leaned forward. They'll try to stop it. District. City. Even people in the neighborhood. You start changing things, people push back. MJ didn't flinch. Let them push. Outside, the sun was dipping low. A couple of guys were still running drills on the court. Davion walked over to the gate with Jordan. They stood there watching the last few jumpers go up. You really think this is gonna work? Davion asked. MJ looked at him. I don't build things to watch them fail. Davion nodded slowly. You ever think about what happens if it does? Jordan gave him a look. Not cold, not cocky. Just real. Then we build it again. Davion smiled. You talk like we're at war. We are, MJ said. It's just not the kind you see on TV. That night, MJ called in a favor from someone he rarely talked to anymore, a documentary filmmaker he once turned down after retirement. Told him there might be a story worth filming, one with no endorsements, no product lines, no forced nostalgia. Just a court. And the people who refused to let it die. The letter went out Monday morning. Typed, stamped, and distributed by the school administration, pending campus changes, faculty parking expansion plan. No mention of the court. No pictures. No bold font. Just vague wording about repurposing underutilized space for faculty development support. But everyone knew what it meant. By noon, social media was lit up again. Hashtags. Rents. Photos of kids shooting hoops under gray skies. One parent posted, they're paving over dreams to park Toyotas. Michael Jordan read the letter at his kitchen counter. Folded it. Tossed it. Then called Roy. They're making a move, MJ said. They're trying to slide it through without another vote, Roy said. Backdoor move. They think if they call it infrastructure, they don't need approval. Jordan paused. I want a meeting with Hayes. Today. Mr. Hayes, the principal, was waiting when MJ arrived, tie loosened, eyes weary. He didn't look surprised. I figured you'd come. I'm not here to argue, Jordan said, walking into the office like it was Game 6 and the score was tied. I know. I'm here to understand what you're protecting. Hayes motioned for him to sit. You want the truth? Always. Look around this school, Mike. Cracked ceilings. Staff turnover. Teachers leaving mid-year. We're barely holding it together. And every time we ask for funding, we're told to get creative. This parking lot? It gets us teacher retention grants. It gets us points with the district. You get money for replacing a basketball court? We get money for retention efforts. A parking lot makes things easier for the people who educate these kids. That court doesn't keep a science teacher from quitting. Jordan leaned forward. You know what does keep a kid from giving up? Seeing someone believe in their future. That court is more than a slab. It's a message. One that says, we still see you. I'm not disagreeing with you, Mike. But I can't run this school on symbolism. I need something that works. Jordan stood. Then you're thinking too small. That conversation hit local media the next day. Word leaked fast. The school wasn't backing down, and neither was MJ. That night, a local talk show ran a segment titled, Jordan versus the System. The city split down the middle. Some backed MJ. Others sided with Hayes. The friction had become public. At Booker T, things got tenser. Teachers whispered. Some were excited. Others were frustrated. One science teacher, Miss Caldwell, cornered Davion in the hallway. You think Jordan's gonna change your test scores? She asked. Davion didn't answer. He just walked away. At lunch, kids talked about it. Arguments broke out. A group of students launched a petition called Save the Court. Another group started one called Save the School. Lines were being drawn. Jordan wasn't blind to it. He brought it to his team, the small circle that had formed around the court revival project. Roy, Teresa, Dante, a few others. "We can't push too hard," Teresa warned. "People already think this is just ego. A rich man fighting to save a monument." "I'm not saving a monument," MJ said. "I'm trying to protect a spark." "But I get it. We've got to shift the story." "How?" Ruben asked. "By making it bigger." So they started hosting after-school pickup games. Organized drills. Teresa brought snacks and tutoring flyers. Dante taught footwork. Roy handed out beat-up copies of The Last Shot by Darcy Fry. It wasn't flashy, but it was consistent. Then they invited the faculty. One Friday afternoon, they held a teachers versus students scrimmage. Hayes showed up. Stood on the sideline. Watched quietly as a history teacher got crossed over and landed on his back, laughing. The crowd was loud. Unified. No politics, just joy. MJ walked over. "See what happens when you keep the court," he said. Hayes didn't answer, but something in his eyes softened. Still, the pressure kept climbing. Local board members got involved. They wanted Jordan to tone it down. "Back off. Let the system work," one of them said. But MJ had learned long ago, systems protect themselves. People protect people. So he doubled down. He called in one last favor. A week later, Derrick Rose showed up. Quiet, hood up, hands in his pockets. He walked straight onto the court without fanfare and started shooting. Kids froze. Someone whispered, "Yo, is that?" It was. No speeches. No interviews. Just him playing one-on-one with a 7th grader for 20 minutes, then shaking his hand and walking off. Later, MJ approached him. "Thanks for coming." Rose just nodded. "This court saved me too. Keep it alive." That moment went viral. Again. This time, something shifted. Articles stopped asking should the court be saved and started asking how far can this go? Parents who hadn't shown up in years started dropping by. Alumni donated money. Teresa's garage was suddenly too small for the demand. News cameras started showing up again. Hayes watched all of it from his office. One night, he found a note on his desk. No name. Just 3 lines. "The classroom saved my brain. The court saved my heart. Don't make me choose." He didn't know who wrote it. But he kept it. At the next board meeting, he stood. "I was wrong," he said. "This isn't about a court. This is about a foundation. And we've been trying to build a school without one." The room fell silent. He looked at MJ across the room. "Let's build it together." After the meeting, Jordan stood alone in the parking lot, looking out at the court under dim streetlights. The asphalt still had weeds. The backboard still shook when someone dunked. But something had changed. Not the court. The people. The system was starting to bend. And MJ wasn't done yet. They arrived without cameras. One by one, in unmarked SUVs and rental cars, dressed in sweats and ball caps. No press conferences. No announcements. Just old teammates stepping back into a different kind of arena. Scottie Pippen was first. MJ greeted him with a handshake that turned into a hug. No words, just mutual respect. Then Dennis Rodman, in a hoodie and shades, carrying a duffel bag with a pair of battered high tops that looked like they'd survived a war. "You said bring my game, right?" he grinned. Later that day, Charles Oakley showed up, followed by Ron Harper and B.J. Armstrong. Guys who'd bled in practices, battled for rebounds, and shared locker rooms back when championships still felt like everything. They met in the school gym. It smelled the same as it had in the 80s: rubber, dust, sweat, old wood. The rims were tight, the bleachers squeaked, and the backboards hadn't been replaced in at least a decade. Jordan stood at center court. "I didn't call you here for nostalgia," he said. "I called you here because I'm building something. I want you in it." Pippen nodded. "We're in." No one needed convincing. Not after what they'd seen, the videos, the school, the court. Not after hearing MJ had been showing up daily, coaching kids after school, helping Roy sand down backboards and repaint lines himself. Rodman laughed. "I never thought I'd see the day. Mike with a paint roller." Jordan smirked. "You still can't shoot, Dennis." They got to work. Not flashy. Not performative. Just there, showing up, being seen, being real. That afternoon, they ran drills. Rebounded for kids. Taught defense. Not the YouTube kind of defense, real defense. Sliding feet, cutting angles, staying in front of your man. Every mistake corrected, not criticized. Ruben, one of the assistant coaches, stood off to the side, shaking his head. "You know how crazy this is? These kids are getting coached by champions like it's normal." It wasn't normal. It was once in a lifetime. Davion showed up halfway through and froze when he saw the court. Rodman spotted him. "You hoop?" "A little." "Then get your ass out here." Davion didn't hesitate. MJ watched him play. Still raw. Still a bit unsure. But faster. Stronger. More vocal. He wasn't hiding anymore. Later, when the sun started dropping, they gathered around half-court. Jordan passed out bottled water like it was the '96 finals. The kids sat around like it was story time. "Let me tell y'all something," MJ said. "We didn't win because we were perfect. We won because we held each other accountable. Every single day." Rodman nodded. "We fought in practice more than we did in games." Pippen chimed in. "But we showed up. Always. For each other." A hand shot up. One of the younger players. "How'd you know it would all work out?" MJ shook his head. "We didn't. We just made sure it couldn't fall apart." There was silence for a beat. Then Rodman leaned back, cracked his knuckles. "You know what's different now? Y'all got us." That night, they stayed late. Ordered pizza. Played horse under the broken lights. The court wasn't pretty, but it was full of noise, of movement, of life. At one point, MJ walked over to the fence where Roy stood watching. "You see it?" Jordan asked. Roy smiled. "I've been seeing it. Just took the rest of y'all long enough to catch up." The next morning, Jordan met with Teresa, Ruben, and Hayes in the school library. Laid out the plan on the table. It wasn't just a court now. It was a program. The Jordan Center. Built around the court. Open 7 days a week. Tutoring, mentorship, fitness, mental health resources, and guest coaches rotating every month. Former players. Trainers. Speakers. Leaders. Hayes looked at the folder. "You sure you want to put your name on this?" "I'm not putting my name on it," Jordan said. "I'm putting their names on it. I'm just lighting the fuse." Funding wasn't the issue. MJ had already spoken to a few sponsors. Quiet conversations with Nike. A call to Gatorade. No one said no. But Jordan didn't want a logo-splashed sellout center. He wanted something real. Later that day, the news broke. Michael Jordan to build multi-purpose youth center in Southside Chicago. It was everywhere. But MJ didn't talk to the press. Didn't give a quote. Just let the headline live on its own. Back at the school, the kids called it something else. The Brotherhood Court. Not because of MJ and Pippen. Because of what they saw happen there, players coming back, shaking hands, mentoring, watching. Real ones, not just legends. It wasn't about the fame. It was about the bond. That Friday, MJ walked the court alone at dusk. The chalk outlines from a day's worth of kids still marked the corners. A ball rolled across the court in the breeze. He picked it up. Took a shot from the top of the key. Net. Old rhythm. He looked up at the sky, quiet now, but still holding echoes of laughter and sneakers and shouts. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The court had spoken back. And it wasn't done talking. The table was cluttered with papers, blueprints, coffee cups, and a half-eaten sandwich someone forgot to finish. Jordan stood at the center of it all, a dry erase marker in hand, sketching on a board. 2 entrances, he said. One here, one at the west end. A rec room in the back. Classrooms on the left. And the court stays untouched, same dimensions, same soul. Across from him sat Teresa, Roy, Ruben, and a young architect MJ had brought in from a local firm. Her name was Kayla Brooks. She grew up just a few blocks from Booker T. Kayla pointed to the plans. We're tight on space if we want to include tutoring rooms and a tech lab. We could build vertically, add a second story. Jordan nodded. As long as the court stays open during construction. Working around it will slow things down. Then we slow it down, MJ said. The court has to stay open. The room went quiet for a second. Kayla gave him a small smile. You're serious about that? Jordan looked up from the board. The court is the blueprint. Everything else follows. Construction was one thing. Approval was another. By midweek, zoning became the problem. A district official named Malcolm Sharp called MJ's rep and requested a meeting. Jordan didn't send a rep. He showed up himself. Sharp was sharp, no pun intended. Clean suit, tight grip, practiced smile. Mr. Jordan, let me start by saying we respect what you're trying to do here. Jordan nodded. I'm not here for compliments. Sharp continued. The district is concerned. The proposed center borders residential zones. Parking logistics are underdeveloped. And this kind of project, well, it usually takes 18 months just for permitting. I'm not building a stadium, MJ said. I'm building hope. Don't slow-walk that. Hope is important, Sharp said. So is policy. So are neighbors. Jordan sat back, calm but firm. You know how many courts this city's lost in the last 10 years? I don't have that number offhand. Too many. You take away the court, you take away the heartbeat. And I'm not letting that happen here. Sharp looked down at his tablet. We'll need revised proposals. Community review. Environmental impact checks. I'll give you everything. But you don't stall this. You work with us, or I'll make this real noisy. Sharp didn't blink. We'll be in touch. MJ left the meeting and called Kayla. We've got to make this airtight. Every drawing, every permit, double-check it. I don't want them finding anything to use against us. While they handled the paperwork, MJ focused on the people. He started visiting local businesses, churches, and block clubs. Not with a speech, not with handlers. Just MJ, shirt sleeves rolled up, sometimes holding a clipboard, sometimes just shaking hands. At one barbershop, an older man looked up from his chair. You really out here trying to save a basketball court? I'm trying to build something that'll outlast me, MJ said. At a church meeting, a young mother stood up. I don't have a son. I got 2 daughters. You doing anything for them? Absolutely, MJ said. This isn't about boys. It's about opportunity. She crossed her arms. Then don't make it feel like a boys' club. He nodded. Noted. Come meet the team. Help us build it. By the end of the week, support was rising. But so was the pressure. The city sent another letter. This time, it was a list of demands: safety inspections, construction bonds, liability coverage. It read more like a stall tactic than a real list. Jordan tossed the letter onto the table at the next team meeting. "They're trying to bury this in paperwork." "We'll dig it out," Roy said. MJ looked around. "We've got two options. Wait it out. Or fight smart." "What's fight smart?" Teresa asked. "Go public, on our terms." So they scheduled a press conference. Not in a hotel. Not at City Hall. On the court. They set up folding chairs. Ran extension cords. Kids sat on the baseline. Teachers in the bleachers. Local reporters with tripods and notepads. No glitz. No PR spin. Just Jordan at half court with a mic. He spoke clearly. Calmly. "This isn't about celebrity. This isn't about money. This is about a future that starts with a single step in the right direction. I'm not asking for favors. I'm building something. And I'm inviting the city to join me." He looked at the kids. "You see these faces? You paved this court, you paved them out of the picture." The next day, the press had a field day. Jordan put City on notice. Blueprint for Hope, MJ's plan for Chicago Youth Center. Can basketball still save lives? Support came pouring in: donations, volunteer signups, even a few local politicians breaking ranks. But behind the scenes, there was pushback too. Anonymous calls warning donors. Permits that kept getting delayed. A proposal to rezone the block again: suspicious timing. Still, MJ kept showing up. He walked the court each morning before school started. Sometimes with Roy. Sometimes alone. Kids would come up, dap him, tell him what drills they did the night before. One brought his report card. 2 B's, 1 A, and no D's, he beamed. MJ gave him a signed pair of his own sneakers, beat-up game-worns from '98. "Earned, not gifted," he said. That moment was everything. Because this court wasn't just surviving. It was working. The blueprint wasn't just on paper anymore. It was alive. And it was moving. The stop work order came in an envelope. No call. No warning. Just a legal document taped to the chain-link fence by the court, flapping in the wind like a slap in the face. Roy found it first. He didn't even pull it down, just stared at it, stunned. MJ arrived 15 minutes later. He read it once. Then again. Then slowly ripped it from the fence. Effective immediately, all construction, development, and site modifications were to be halted pending further environmental and structural review. Cited were noise complaints, foundation concerns, pedestrian safety, traffic overflow, and something vague about urban density misalignment. Translation: someone in power had decided enough was enough. Teresa showed up 10 minutes later with Kayla, who had the building plans tucked under her arm and her jaw clenched tight. "This isn't procedural," she said. "This is sabotage." Jordan didn't respond. Not yet. He was staring at the court. At the lines they'd just repainted. At the bleachers they were planning to replace next week. At the momentum that had taken months to build, now halted by a piece of paper. The team gathered later that night in the school gym. Everyone was there. Ruben. Kayla. Teresa. Roy. Even Davion and a couple of the other older students who had started volunteering after class. "We can challenge it," Kayla said. "But it'll take weeks. Maybe longer." "Weeks means the court sits empty," MJ said. "And that's what they want," Roy said. "Empty courts fade fast." Jordan leaned on the table. His voice was lower than usual. "They're trying to wait us out. Burn out the hype. Turn this into a footnote." Ruben shook his head. "You gonna let him?" MJ didn't answer. Because something was creeping in that he hadn't felt in years, not on the court, not in business, not even in retirement. Doubt. Not in the project, but in himself. And whether he had the fuel for a long haul like this. Whether he could keep pushing when the game wasn't fair, and the refs worked for the other team. Teresa saw it in his face. "Mike," she said, "you've taken on bigger." He shook his head. "Not like this. This ain't basketball. There's no fourth quarter. No final buzzer. But there are kids watching." That stuck. Still, the next few days dragged. The court, once buzzing with activity, started going quiet. Construction tools disappeared. Materials were hauled off-site. The city claimed they needed to do further inspections on the pavement. It was nonsense. Everyone knew it. But legally, it stuck. Worse, a news story broke on a popular blog. Is Jordan just building a vanity project in Chicago? It quoted anonymous sources. Claimed MJ's project was uncoordinated, ego-driven, and disruptive to neighborhood stability. It included photos of the court, empty under cloudy skies, with captions like "wasted potential." MJ read the article in silence. Then clicked it off. The next day, a city councilwoman he hadn't spoken to directly appeared on a morning radio show. "I appreciate Michael's intentions," she said, voice polite but firm, "but we can't allow any individual, no matter how famous, to circumvent process. Communities have rules. This one is no different." It was the last line that hit the hardest. This project feels like a monument to one man's past, not a blueprint for the city's future. That night, MJ didn't show up at the court. First time in weeks. He stayed home. Sat in the dark with the TV off. The game was starting to slip. Until the knock. Soft. Hesitant. He opened the door to see Davion standing there. Hoodie up. Holding something. "What's up?" Jordan asked. "I found this," Davion said, handing him a small notebook. It was in the old storage room. "Yours, right?" MJ opened it. The one he'd been sketching in back when he first returned to the court. Inside, early versions of the center plans. Quotes scribbled in the margins. Half-drawn diagrams. A note on the inside cover. "Legacy isn't given. It's planted." "I saw the news," Davion said. "People talking like you're out." "That true?" Jordan didn't answer right away. He looked at the notebook. Looked at Davion. The kid had bags under his eyes. Calluses on his fingers. Same jersey as always. But there was something new in him, an edge, a spark. "I watched your old games again," Davion said. "The ones where y'all were down big. You didn't always look like you'd win. But you always looked like you believed you could." MJ exhaled. "That wasn't belief," he said. "That was refusal." Refusal? To quit. To let the other team write the ending. They stood in silence. Then Jordan stepped aside. "Come in. We got work to do." The next day, MJ was back at the court before sunrise. Folding chair. Notebook. Thermos of black coffee. A single cone placed at midcourt. He sat there until the first kid showed up. Then another. By the time the sun was high, there were 20. No drills. No schedule. Just presence. That afternoon, MJ made a call. Not to the city. To the people. He called a meeting. Not at City Hall. Not at a press event. At the court. Families came. Teachers. Former players. Alumni. Small business owners. Even a few skeptics. MJ stood on a milk crate at half court and didn't give a speech. He gave them the truth. They think if they stall us, we'll go away. They think if they drown us in forms, we'll fold. But this ain't about paperwork. It's about purpose. You want to talk policy? Let's talk future. Let's talk about what happens if we stop fighting. He paused. I'm not building this for me. I've already had my career. I've had my name in lights. This court isn't my legacy, it's yours. The crowd didn't cheer. They stood. Listened. Believed. Later, as they began to walk away, Roy leaned in. You back? MJ smirked. I never left. The court was glowing. Not with lights, though those were new and brilliant, but with life. Kids sprinted baseline to baseline, the bounce of basketballs a steady heartbeat. Parents lined the fence, some with phones out, others just soaking it in. A boom box blasted old-school hip-hop. Laughter cut through the evening chill. And Michael Jordan stood on the sideline, smiling without saying much. It had taken everything to get here. Months of red tape, lawyers, donors, threats of lawsuits, even a last-minute zoning scare. But the court was done. The center had been approved. And today, for the first time since the project started, the whole neighborhood came out to see it. The Jordan Center wasn't massive. It didn't need to be. 2 stories. Clean design. Glass panels that reflected the street like a mirror. Inside, 3 classrooms, a tutoring space, a weight room, and a studio where kids could record music or edit video. But the crown jewel was still the court. Same size, same paint scheme, just sharper. Stronger rims. Real bleachers. And the original backboard, cracks and all, now mounted as a monument by the entrance. A boy about 10 crossed Jordan's path, wide-eyed and sweaty, clutching a ball to his chest. You him? The boy asked. MJ nodded. I'm him. You still hoop? Jordan chuckled. Not fast. Not high. But I still hoop. The kid grinned and jogged back into the game. Roy walked over, hands in his coat pockets. This the end? Nah, MJ said. This the beginning. Inside the building, Teresa stood in the main hallway, talking to a group of parents about mentorship signups. Ruben passed out volunteer forms near the gym. Kayla walked a film crew through the space, not for a flashy documentary, but for a grant proposal she was quietly preparing. Outside, Davion was on the court. Captain of his group, leading drills. He wasn't the same kid from that first day. He stood taller. Moved with confidence. Spoke like a leader. MJ walked out to midcourt. The game paused. Kid stepped aside. Let's run it, he said. Davion passed him the ball with a grin. You sure? Always. Jordan backed up. Pulled up from the elbow. Jumper. Net. A roar from the crowd. Davion came back at him fast. Quick dribble, spin, floater. It bounced off the rim. Close, MJ said. Again. They played for 15 minutes. Not serious. Not for show. Just joy. Just basketball. When they finished, MJ handed the ball to the smallest kid on the court, a girl in red Jordans 2 sizes too big. You got next, he said. The crowd started to thin as the sun dipped. MJ sat on a bench near the fence. Davion came over, holding a bottle of water, still catching his breath. Place turned out all right, he said. You turned out all right, MJ said back. Davion shrugged. Still got a long way to go. Good. Never trust a finish line. They sat for a while. You leaving again? Davion asked. I might take a step back. But I'll be around. People say you did all this for legacy. MJ nodded. They always say something. Was it? MJ looked out at the court. Legacy wasn't about trophies, he thought. Not anymore. It wasn't about shoes or statues. It was about leaving something that kept moving, something others could use to find their own path. Legacy wasn't what stayed behind. It was what lit the way forward. I did it because someone built a court for me once, he said. And I didn't want to be the guy who watched one get torn down. Davion didn't say anything. He just nodded. The last kids finally packed up. Teresa turned off the center lights. Roy locked up. Reuben slapped MJ on the shoulder as he walked by. We built it, he said. And they had. MJ looked down at the concrete. Fresh lines. Painted logo. Polished, but real. He spotted something near the corner of the court. Chalk. 4 kids had drawn initials along the edge. MJ. Big letters. Stylized. Colorful. But beside it was a message. We got it from here. He knelt down, ran a hand across it. Smiled. Then he grabbed the nearest ball, stood at the top of the key, and took one last shot. Swish. No cameras. No crowd. Just the sound of the net. He turned, walked toward the gate, and disappeared into the city. The court remained lit, alive, and no longer waiting. It had already started something bigger.